Lynn Cullen live in 1 minute. Welcome to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com.
Hello, you guys. How you doing? I got to tell you, I have more pharmaceuticals coursing through my veins right now that I think you can watch sort of my deterioration as the rest of the week plays out, as I've been put on steroids. Which make me crazy. I would be, if I were, a football player or some athlete that took steroids, I'd be one of those ones like those that goes totally insane and, ends up killing people or something. Because the few times that I have been placed on steroids for my respiratory issues, I've literally, I feel, lost my mind. So anyway, I fought the doctor yesterday when he said, you got to start. I said, I can't. Well, it'll be terrible. I said, I'll be on my show. I'll lose my mind. He said, your audience will love it. He said, you got to take them. So I'm just warning you. I just started, so I don't think they've kicked in yet. But I do get nuts. So... And he forced me onto antibiotics as well. I just have so much drugs in me. And nobody has a clue what this thing is. Jess, you're still sick. Mm-hmm. Jess is the progenitor of it all. Oh, anyway. Okay, a lot of other people like this Pope, too. However, I just saw something today where he just last week excommunicated a priest in Australia who, I have to admit, I mean, if you're going to have, an organization like the church and there are certain rules, I guess, this priest was asking for it. But he had totally sort of broken away. He had started his own church, an inclusive church. I think he actively he allowed women to take part. He was a real true liberal who couldn't function anymore within the constraints of the church. And then, but this Pope, Francis, did take the time last week to write this guy a letter and say, you're finished, buddy. You're excommunicated. I don't know. I'm not sure. Somebody here says, my question was so beautiful. I don't know what my question was, but I think it had to do when I was asking about the religious aspects. But we shouldn't get into that again, I suspect. Anyway, this person thinks it was beautiful because I was like a young child searching for an answer. Anyway, the answers that have come back about trying to explain the Trinity to me have absolutely flummoxed me. So don't even try. We won't go there. Now Ray, I hadn't seen your, oh my God, Ray. I'm not doing this on the air. Ray has sent me a tome. Shall I do this? I mean, it's Ray's writing it, so. Okay, I'm going to do this. Maybe I'll understand it. I'm going to try to open my roid-crazed head and see if I can comprehend this. for those who didn't hear the show yesterday, I don't get the Trinity. I don't get it at all. I don't understand how you can be a monotheistic religion and have fathers, sons, and ghosts, and I don't get it. I never have. I don't understand what they are. I mean, the Father is the God I worship. And my understanding is Christians worship the Son. And where the heck the Holy Spirit is, I don't know. So, but that's just a Catholic thing, right? So anyway, here's Ray, who's a good Catholic, coming to my aid. Normally, I would not bother trying to explain these things to the uninitiated. But you seem genuinely interested. I am. And poor actually, my sister, my mother, and I were talking about it on the phone again last night. The three of us trying to figure it. The only thing funnier than 2 Jews trying to figure out the Trinity was 3 Jews trying to figure out the Trinity. Okay. You're right, Ray. I am genuinely interested. And he says, and poor Jess has been failed by the church in her upbringing, since whatever it was you said was totally...
I just don't...
You don't get it either. She doesn't know.
I don't care.
And she doesn't care. Okay, so... I write this from my small understanding of our mystics. Uh-oh. I never heard of this guy, like Meister Eckhart, St. John of the Cross, and Thomas Merton. Okay. We were raised with explanations of the Trinity with metaphors such as 3 candles from 1 flame and 3 drinks from 1 well. But these never quite spoke to the power of the message. I had a sort of epiphany when I read of a study of the recently sighted, people who regain their vision. There was a study of people who were born blind and later in life were given surgeries that restored their sight. These people were presented with 3 images: a square, a triangle, and a circle. They were unable to identify the images. But when they could touch the shapes, these patients immediately knew what they were. I was amazed at this, and at the same time, I saw something profound in its message. A single thing may have many aspects. Take the apple. Ray, you would make a marvelous teacher, too. Okay, take the apple. We go to Whole Foods. No, we don't. Maybe you do. We go to Whole Foods and we see Gala apples and Fuji apples and Macintosh and Whole Delicious and so on. And they are all apples. And we know them when we see them because they agree with some perfect apple we have in our mind. Never mind, we have never seen this perfect apple. We know it, and these ones agree enough to be classified as an apple. Now, close your eyes and take these apples into your hand. You will feel the skin and the firmness of the texture, the shape, and the stem. You will know this is an apple because it steals your mind back to the image of the perfect apple that you have never seen but understand as a paradigm. These are apples, even though you do not see them, and even though the perfect apple is still beyond you. Now, keep your eyes closed and put your hands away and take a bite of each fruit. The taste will tell you it is an apple. And this will take you also to the perfect apple image, even though you neither see nor feel its entirety. You only have but a taste, yet you return to the perfect whole. This is the Trinity. Wow. Okay. That's a very helpful little exercise you just set up there. And beautifully done. He goes on. Every day we meet the Godhood in all living things. This Godhood, this is a word I don't know, Godhood. Okay, but I understand it. This Godhood lives in us. Even in the very worst of us, there is this Godhood to some degree. The God that it reflects is unattainable and beyond our experience. God the Father. But we cannot deny that we experience a transcendence when we meet a lover or hear the cooing of a child or witness the majesty of a starry night. In order to connect us to the God that forms the Godhood in every living thing, there is a bridge, a language, a connection. This communication with the Godhead is the Holy Spirit. It is the Holy Spirit that manifests itself in the prayers of the faithful. But at last, we have ourselves who have been separated from God by sin. While we possess the very Godhead in ourselves, Christ suffered with us to tell us God suffers too, and we are not separated from God by suffering. Our original sin, separation by suffering, lose me a little bit there, has been redeemed. God does not relieve all suffering in man because suffering is part of God. It doesn't matter if the God is a white-bearded old man or a spear-wielding woman or an elephant-headed warrior, a lute-playing goat, or a golden calf. God is the internal thing that we are, that attaches us. I think you got it. God is the internal thing that is in us that attaches us to each other and the world. Our individual Godhead that we are responsible for and need to cultivate is our personal image of this God, the thing that binds us to the beautiful transcendence. And our journey to God is not an outward journey justified by math and science. It is an inward journey that needs a more subtle set of measurements. Oh, well, as one of your listeners said after my last rant, blah, blah. No one's going to say blah, blah, blah to what you just wrote there. No one. Just remember, Ray writes, that you have Godhead in you and in everyone you meet, even the skeptical cowards with blah, blah, blah on their lips. Ray, that's just beautiful, and thank you. That is as helpful as anything I have encountered in my decades on Earth, and there's something very appealing about it. So I understand, and I thank you. I will forward that on to my mom and my sister as well. Okay, that's our religious studies for the day, I think. No, here we go. Hello, caller. Hi.
How you doing today?
I'm doing fine, thank you.
I'm going to ask you this. You probably think I'm nuts, but I want to know, and I ask pastors this, why is God God, and who picked him or he or she or whatever to be the Almighty? And where did he come from, or where did she come from? To think about that blows my mind, because God's got to come from somewhere, right? That's why I don't believe all the BS of the religious thing. I think really, and you're going to think I'm nuts, but I don't care. I actually think we came from advanced civilization in the universe. That is, and I think we're mistaking God for that. And it could be our God, because they're advanced and they seem all-powerful. But that's my thing on the whole religious thing anymore. I'm tilting towards that way, Not to say I don't believe in God, but I don't know. There's too many questions.
Well,
Too many.
God knows there are too many questions. It's very confusing.
Yes.
Okay. Hey, thank you. I appreciate
thank
it.
you.
Okay, bye. I can't answer a darn thing you asked. Colette writes, she's waving a white flag, I think. She says, I was raised a Catholic, and I don't want to hear any more about the Trinity. I think you covered it plenty yesterday. I asked a nun in grade school how it worked, and she couldn't explain it. I don't care anymore, says Colette. Okay. Okay, we won't go there. But in regard to the college question, I have always been of the firm conviction myself that man created God. But that is not because we have to. We had to answer all these unanswerable questions. And as for your idea that we're from some other, civilization, advanced civilization, I was once in a dentist's chair, this is decades ago, with my mouth wide open, and he had sharp objects inside it. And he went off on this thing about how he thought that Adam and Eve, he was absolutely certain about it, were really astronauts from another universe, and that they, that had gone awry in some way, and they had come here to start again and to resettle and blah, 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 blah. And then that explained all kinds of weird things, like how you could have pyramids and blah, blah, blah. Anyway, I remember thinking as he started out with Adam and Eve are astronauts, this man is nuts, and he has sharp objects in my mouth. But we tell ourselves stories because we have to, and some people have come up with really good ones, and so billions of people take those stories on. No one's going to be proved right, I don't think, and nobody's going to be proven wrong. I don't know, and anyone who has never pondered the mystery of what Ray called the godhood in us. Anyone who hasn't pondered that is a very incurious soul, to be sure. Anyone who hasn't marveled at the miracles of just life itself, of, as I've said, there are times when you can literally lose yourself in looking at 1 square inch on your lawn and imagine the universe that exists there. Anyone who doesn't have the capacity to marvel at all of that and to wonder, I think is odd, is very odd. I think it's all very humbling, ultimately, and I remember the fear I felt. My mother is always looking at the sky at night and seeing things, and she would wake me up, and I maybe have told you this, and drag me out onto the front lawn, shivering in my PJs. Look, she would say, pointing up. And I looked once, I think, and this vast, and this was back in the day when there wasn't so much light pollution, and, we didn't live in a big city. And so there was a blanket of stars. And in the cases where she dragged me out there might have been comets or aurora borealis, which we can see up there, or shooting stars, all this kind of stuff. And I would hazard a peek, and rather than feel the awe that she felt, I felt terror. I felt so tiny. I felt so small and so clueless and so inconsequential. I didn't feel, the comfort of being part of something wondrous. I just felt inconsequential. And so I often would, supposedly be looking up I would have my eyes closed when she'd be saying, and look, and there's, oh my God, there's blah, blah, blah. She knows the constellations. There's, oh, blah, blah, blah. Eyes shut. Too much. Too much. Okay. Well, you guys are wonderful. I just want to say that to have the opportunity to interact with you and the sort of combined experience and knowledge that we as a group possess is again, something that is wondrous, and I love it. So thank you very much. Oh my! So anyway. Sort of staying on religious issues, but really but not, seemingly, but not. I was watching the Pirates last night. Great game for us. I mean, we were just killing them. And after the game was just so obviously, well in hand, I thought, well, you don't have to watch this. See if there's something else that's edifying. So I just started, one of those little cruises through, and a name pops up on my little on-screen guide. And it's a name I had read in the newspaper the day before. The name was Benny Hinn. And I'd read in the newspaper the other day that Benny Hinn, the televangelist, faith healer, whatever, the charlatan, is on his way to Pittsburgh, and where he's going to do like 2 big healing thises and that's, I don't know where, Syria Mosque or something. And obviously what that means is that thousands of people from around here are going to, do they pay? Yeah, pay money and come in. And I thought, you know what? I have never seen this guy. I remember Doug Hirth often talked about him, and maybe did. And I'd hear Doug talk about him. I think, I don't know. He's just one of these, Doug would have fun with it. But I thought, well, he's coming here. Let me look at him. I watched for, I don't think it was more than 5 minutes, because frankly, I couldn't. It was like, by the way, doesn't he look a little like Ted Cruz? Benny Hinn, Ted Cruz, and Joe McCarthy. I'm telling you, they look like, triplets. So I'm watching Benny Hinn, and he's telling people that if they're there and they have illness in them, that they will leave without it. And then the cameras cut away to the faces of, there's a poor woman and she's shaking her head and saying, oh, thank you, God, oh, God, thank you. And I'm thinking, how can a human being so just blatantly pray? I'm not saying P-R-A-Y. Seemingly, that's what he's doing. But what he's really doing is praying, P-R-E-Y, praying on the vulnerable, praying on the poor, praying on the desperate, praying on people who still have hope. And they're so desperate in their hope that they turn to him. And there they'll be, right here, right down the street. I guess this weekend or something. I can't. It's unbelievable. It's unbelievable what people will fall for. I guess because the world is such a mystery, I think that's why religion exists, to help explain it. But because the world is such a mystery, people with the ability, with their tongues and their sharp wits, can tell stories to people that ameliorate their fear or their concern, that tell the little child that was me feeling so scared and inconsequential, oh no. You know, the people, and I'm talking about charlatans and demagogues. Because the human animal is so clueless about who put us here, how do we get here, whether you want to start with the scientific explanation, which seems unbelievable to me, or you want to listen to the biblical explanation, which seems totally unbelievable to me. So I haven't yet heard one that I can take in and completely comprehend. So I stand a better chance of comprehending the scientific idea of evolution, but I still have trouble with where did the first little thing come from? I still have such trouble. So of course, this is fertile territory for people with larceny in their hearts. And it's just extraordinary how many people are willing to follow and to swallow the swill that somebody like a Benny Hinn puts out, or somebody like a Joe McCarthy puts out, or somebody like a Ted Cruz puts out. Ted Cruz, who said just yesterday, everyone in America knows Obamacare is destroying the economy. No, that is a statement that is false on every count. False on every count. Everyone in America does not know that. One of the reasons everyone in America does not know that is that is totally untrue, for starters. And so a guy like Ted Cruz talking about referencing Nazis, and like he's like a person who stood up against the Nazis by standing up against Obamacare. There are people by the billions who listen to that and think that Ted Cruz is telling them, is explaining to them what is really going on. So all of us have to make these choices about who it is we listen to. Who's telling us the truth? And people who tell us what we want to hear, we generally think are those that are telling us the truth. But that's not the way it works. Often, the truth is exactly what you don't want to hear. Oh, boy. Yike! How'd it get to be that late? Okay. I'll tell you what. Let's get a break out of the way, and we'll come back and maybe get into something a little more mundane after this.
Stick around for more with Lynn Cullen live after this.
This week's Pittsburgh City Paper featuring your 2013 Pittsburgh Pirates is available now. Pick up one today for our special education guide pullout. Plus, We Are Family, Neil Walker, Frank Coonley, Stephen Lynch, Marie Schwinnar, and Joe Satriani. Pittsburgh City Paper available at over 1,700 locations throughout Western Pennsylvania and on the web at pghcitypaper.com. and on your smartphone with GPS-enabled listings at citypapermobile.com.
Come to Little's for all of your back-to-school needs. Little's has everything for all ages to stay in style for this upcoming school season. Check out the large selection from Doc Marten, Steve Madden, UGG, Clarks, Lely Kelly, New Balance, and much, much more. Don't forget to come visit this season's colorful handbag selection as well. Little Shoes, Pittsburgh's largest family shoe store, 5850 Forbes Avenue in Squirrel Hill.
Have a question or an opinion? Call Lynn Cullen at 412-316-3381 or email lynn@pghcitypaper.com. Now, more with Lynn Cullen Live.
All righty. Excuse me. Speaking of Obamacare, I don't know about you, but I don't really understand any of it. Didn't somebody call? Yeah, our friend called yesterday and said, so what I don't understand is, do I this or I don't know. And in that regard, our government has not done a good job of explaining this to us, nor has media. And it's media's responsibility. The paper should be full of this stuff, explaining to people. And the news should be full of stuff explaining. But we're so screwed up now because this has become politicized that some people in media and some very highly placed people think it is helping the administration if they do their jobs in explaining this new huge law that affects every American that is really now coming into play in a major way. It's, little rollouts in the last 3 years, but this is the year, 2014 is the year when really it starts to kick in earnest. And it is the role of media to explain it. So I want to do a shout out, at least this is the first good, easy, one-page breakdown of it. It's in USA Today today. In fact, it's called, and it's very short, but it answers basic questions. So, just to get you started, all the questions, what you need to know. What if you're already insured? What does this have to do? What if I'm a college student? What if I own a small business and they have all? What if I have low income? What if I da-da-da-da-da-da? And it's all right here. And if you're one of the probably vast majority of Americans who aren't really sure what the impact of the law is on you, and you didn't listen to the tutorial from our two presidents yesterday, Clinton and Obama, this is, I think, is very helpful. I can very quickly do a few little quick things for you here as a member of the media trying to do my job. If you already have health insurance from your employer, there's nothing you have to do. Nothing's going to change for you. Several of the changes that have kicked in, the earlier ones, already have benefited you in large part. These are changes like that your children up to the age of 26 can still stay on your plan. This is the provision that, and what a great one this is, that you can no longer have your health insurance taken from you because you become sick and consequently in need of it. Think of that. That's the way it was until Obamacare was passed. Companies cannot set a lifetime limit on your coverage, which has been true of all the coverages I've ever had. There was a limit there. And now your plan will cover a lot of preventive services for free, probably, in large part, although that, I guess, gets a little dicey. And if you're on Medicare, well, that donut hole, that damn donut hole that is in that Part D coverage for prescription drugs, which hits a lot of people really hard, that will begin to close this year. So that it's going to take a long time to close. It's going to take 7 years to close it. But by 2020, there will be no hole whatsoever. Little thing. This is this horrible Obamacare. Insurers are barred from using your health history to set rates for you. Rates will be determined by 3 factors and 3 factors only: age, place of residence, and number of people in your family. Your plan will not feature higher premiums because you are sick. Now, the penalty aspect of not complying and not getting yourself insured, this is interesting. And this I did not really realize how this would work. The only way that this whole thing works is we have to all be in it together, which means everybody has to be insured. And if you choose not to be, well, fine and dandy, but at some point you will be penalized, monetarily penalized. Those who are uninsured and do not meet requirements for an exemption, and there are some, could either be covered through an expansion in state Medicaid programs, unless, of course, you live in this great state where the Republican governor has refused to really create the kind of program that would help more of us. And these are these health insurance marketplaces. Okay? Listen to this, though. If you are not insured by January 1st of 2014, which is right around the corner, you may face a penalty. The penalties start off relatively low because you got to figure a lot of people are just not, again, we're clueless about this stuff. But by 2016, in just 2 years, they will be penalties you do not want. And how will they assess them? Well, guess what? When you fill out your 2014 federal income tax return, you're going to do something on your income tax return you've never done before. And that is, you will provide information to the IRS regarding your health insurance. If you leave that blank and you have no health insurance to tell them that you have, you're going to get fined. And that could come as being, that could, just, they'll take it right out of your tax return. So that's how the IRS gets itself involved in the penalty phase. You don't have to worry about the IRS at all if you have insurance. You just you let them know where it is. But by 2016, for a person who doesn't have insurance, you could be fined as much as $695. That's a lot of money. And it's more, perhaps, well, not quite, as if you had insurance. No, it's not quite. But those are going to just keep going up. A family could be fined up to $2,000. Okay? So, anyway, if you're wanting to know, I'm getting all this from this one page, and that's just a little bit of what's on that page. This is all kicking in now. It's kicking in as of October 1, which is, a week away. So, just so as you know, I have here, too, from the business exchange, the money section of the same paper, USA Today, that most Americans buying insurance from these new state health exchanges, which Pennsylvania refused to set up, as you know, but the feds, when a state refuses, the feds come in and set it up, I guess. State health exchanges. Most Americans will have a number of choices to choose from for insurers. And so the marketplace is really worked out here. A lot of companies coming in wanting to offer insurance. And it says here that as many as 6 out of 10 of the people using these exchanges could pay less than $100 a month. So the majority of people who are buying on the exchange will pay less than $100 a month. And again, if even that's too much, there are ways that the government will step in and help people who can't afford that. This is government doing exactly what government should do. And the Ted Cruzes of the world think it's fascistic. The Ted Cruzes of the world think it's destroying the economy. Huh? I'll tell you what's destroying the economy. I mean, as we know, the fact that the economy is run of, by, for the rich. That's what's destroying the economy and the corporations. And I'm going to get a break in here. When we come back, I'm going to tell you, I'm just going to give you a heads up on how much you spend every year without realizing it. In subsidies to big business. And it's the way you pay it, where you don't notice that you're paying it, is through your tax dollars. So you send money in to your government, state, local, federal, and they then turn around, do they not, and parcel it out. Wait till you hear how much of your money that they're giving to huge companies who do not need it, rather than giving it back to the people who put it in. This is the corruption of our government, of, by, and not for the people, but of, by, and for corporate America. This is what's ruining our economy, Ted Cruz. We'll be back.
Email your questions and comments to Lynn at pghcitypaper.com or call Lynn at 412-316-3381. Lynn Cullen Live will return in a moment.
Does your furnace and air conditioning run nonstop? Are your heating and cooling bills too high? Contact Pittsburgh Foam Insulation. Their certified installers are ready to insulate your home using the best wall insulation products available, and the owner has over 20 years' experience. Pittsburgh Foam Insulation is locally owned and is not a franchise, so unlike their competitors, there are no franchise fees that will be passed on to you, which means Pittsburgh Foam Insulation is able to offer their customers a lower, more affordable price than their competitor. Call 412-856-6100 for a free, no-obligation estimate, or visit PittsburghFoamInsulation.com. Go to BergBargains.com for great deals on gift cards from your favorite local restaurants, bars, museums, attractions, and shows. This week, 50% off tickets to the City Theater's Tony Award-winning play, Vanya and Sonia and Masha and Spike. Supplies are limited. BergBargains.com, Pittsburgh's best bargains. BergBargains.com.
This is Les Ludwig, an independent candidate for mayor of the city of Pittsburgh. I ask for your vote on November 5th, and here's why. Some candidates play politics. I stand for a secure position in regards to fracking, one that's based on my background as a food technologist and opportunities that were presented in my lifetime in the dairy industry when I was a food chemist for the United States Army in Washington, D.C., and the dairy products literally stunk. Someone had to go ahead and take a stand. I did the chemistry, and I stood tall. What are we doing here with fracking? fracking. We have a fight between money and public safety. No one has defined clearly where the danger level is in the distance from the wells. Until we take the moratorium for 3 years and find out what that answer is, I have to stand on the side of public health, not on the side of $500 million of money. It's a mistake, because when we poison our water, we literally sentence ourselves to big trouble. I ask you for your vote and the question of standing tall when it comes to making a decision about fracking. Let's keep Allegheny County and its citizens safe. I thank you.
You're listening to Lynn Cullen Live at pghcitypaper.com. Once again, here's Lynn Cullen.
All righty, back we go. Okay, so, ready for this? The average American family pays, give or take, $6,000 a year in subsidies to big business. Now, how do we derive or arrive at that number? Well, it is an average, so that lower income families are paying less, higher income families are paying much more. But let's start with, okay, so direct subsidies and grants given to big companies by the feds, by the U.S. government. Per family in this country, if you look at all the money that we give out to those corporations and then you divide it by the number of families, and then it's $870 per family. That $870, which should be going back to all of us, to benefit us in infrastructure or whatever, helping to fund programs, instead goes to huge companies that don't need it. This is what is known as corporate welfare. That's what we're talking about here. And it averages out to about $870 for every American family. And this includes those cash payments to farmers. This includes research funds to high-tech companies, which a lot of people say, well, that's important stuff to do. Okay. Indirect subsidies, where the U.S. government comes in and actually helps sell American products for these corporations overseas. And it includes things like, some of the rich people get these subsidies too. Like, I adore him, but Bruce Springsteen, he owns a farm, big, huge farm. He gets these subsidies for his farm, like he needs it. Ted Turner gets these subsidies for all the land he owns in one of those big square states. And a lot of this stuff is given to these farmers so that they will not farm. Here, we're going to give you $400,000, you, Mr. multi-millionaire, so that you will not farm that gazillion-acre ranch that you have, okay? So whatever, $870 that could go elsewhere goes to direct subsidies from the federal government to corporations. Then you come to the state and local level, and heaven knows, when you hear of these, taxes being forgiven to developers and this and that, none of these kinds of sweet deals ever come our way, ever, do they? The New York Times once put investigative reporters on this, trying to come up with a number, and they found that states and counties and cities give over $80 billion a year, aggregate, to companies. And these are companies like, well, the money we gave, I mean, to the fracking companies when they came here. We couldn't stop throwing money at them because they promised to throw some back to us. Got news for you. We would have gotten money anyway from them, whether we sweeten the deal that much or not. But the way the game is rigged now, the companies absolutely expect this payoff. Okay, each American family is pretty much on the hook for about $722 a year for interest rate subsidies for, stand back, banks. Oh, yes, the poor banks. The U.S. government essentially gives banks 3 cents of every tax dollar. What? This is where ignorance of bliss comes in. Anyway, the wealthiest 5 banks, the J.P. Morgans, the Bank of America, Citigroup, Wells Fargo, Goldman Sachs, account for 3/4 of this subsidy. And heaven knows they need it. The average American family subsidizes the pharmaceutical industry by about $1,280 a month. I mean, a year. Bad enough. Because government patent monopolies raise the prices of prescription drugs hugely compared to what the free market price would be. And it represents a cost of over $2,000, according to somebody else, to the average American family. How did I come up with? And on and on. $870 a year for corporate tax subsidies, each family. Overall, American families are paying an annual $6,000, give or take, subsidy to corporations that have doubled their profits, cut their taxes in half in 10 years, throwing Americans out of work, taking their jobs overseas. I mean, this is not only insanity, this is an attack on the livelihoods, on the lives of Americans. And Congress doesn't just let this happen. Congress actively facilitates it. It's pretty amazing. And I mean, we know this, but it's hard to keep it in our heads all the time because, in fact, it drains you. One of the reasons I said I wanted to keep things lighter is because we feel so powerless in so many ways. And the minute we turn away, we do, in fact, become more powerless. That is true, which is what they want, because then they continue to do what benefits them at our expense. If we paid attention, we would not elect people who did the bidding of these corporations. We would only elect people who cared about us. And not in the simplistic manner of a demagogue like a Ted Cruz, seemingly concerned about the American family, but in fact doing the bidding of the powerful. Dorothea writes, I caught Benny Hinn last night on the Christian channel talking about, he was talking about coming to Pittsburgh? I didn't see that part. I thought to myself how smooth he is. I thought this is like the best car salesman I've ever seen. No offense to car salesmen. See, I look at somebody like that, I don't see smooth. I see such a charlatan, such a despicable human being. So what happens when these poor people who pay money to come leave And they still have their illness because, lo and behold, he wasn't able to rid them of it as he promises. Dorothea also says, although I'm a Catholic, I must say I greatly enjoy Joel Osteen on TV. See, I won't listen to any of these people. I'm sorry. They creep me out. He's as much a life coach as he is a preacher, and I find substance in his words. Yeah, sure. Lastly, late on Sunday nights, there's a broadcast called Jack Van Imp Presents, which is a fire and brimstone Bible-based show. The show is done in the style of a mock news broadcast. And Jack's wife, Roxella, uses newspaper headlines to make their points. It's the best comedy show on TV. That's late on Sunday nights? Okay, we'll try to find it. And that's probably on that same, Christian channel? God. Oh, lordy, what's out there? Okay. Hang on, I do have a few other things. Oh, no, I can't. For some reason, they're not letting me on my, Oh, I take that back. Somebody did a cute little thing about, American exceptionalism. And in fact, there are some things that we are exceptionally good at, obviously. And you could probably say that of a lot of countries. But they made a list of what they thought were the 10 things that we are just head and shoulders above any other country in. And number 1 is an odd one. It's no one beats Americans in the way we greet each other. In effusive greetings. That apparently in America there are more ways to say hello to somebody than in any other country. I mean, but, hey! Right? Howdy, hiya, hi there, hey bro, sup, yo, hello, blah, blah, blah. And they say that Americans are more, just sort of physical. Don't get me started about how I so love watching black men greet each other. Is it not the greatest thing? It is like a choreographed wondrousness. And even if and sometimes it's just sort of very matter of fact, like you're standing at the bus stop and one guy's standing there and another guy walks off and they clearly know each other and they go, hey, and it's very quick. It can be a fist bump, it can be a shoulder bump, a this, a that, and they don't even say anything and they just both keep going on their way. They're acknowledging each other in a much more physical way than most people do. And I just love it. Anyway, they say that a lot of other cultures freak out at at Americans and the way we're sort of just all over the place there. Another one is we are the best, the most diverse in every way. So not even thinking of ethnic and racial, but we are the most diverse in climate, in landscape, in wildlife. I find that incredible. I mean, how we have everything from beaches to bayous to mountains to rainforests to desert. But, I mean, others marvel at what is geologically here that is not anywhere else. So if canyons alone, for that matter, the canyons, the vast gorges that create these huge, vast, massive, empty, stunning rock formations in the West, you won't see their like anywhere. You will not see their like anywhere in such profusion. And that takes us to our national parks. No other country has pulled these multitudes and multitudes of acreage and physical glory and majesty, and put it under the care of the government for ill or not. The Republicans, when they get in office, don't care for them so well, even though we thank a Republican President, Teddy Roosevelt, who would never be a Republican today, for creating the idea of the parks. But we have, protected by our government, we're such commies, 84 million acres of buttes and plateaus and rapids and coral reefs and caverns and badlands and volcanoes and glaciers, falls and fjords, swamplands, sandstone arches, geysers, on and on and on. And another thing we are absolutely exceptional at is, and believe me, no one holds a candle to us in this, so America is exceptional in eating. Yep. We're number one. We're number one. And, fat jokes aside, no other nation offers the variety. And it's, again, though, because of the diversity of our entire culture. So we have more food, more diversity in food than you will find anywhere else. Oh, man. And what else? They say we're number one in moving pictures. I guess. But the same people who produced this produced the 10 things Italy does better than anybody else. You could do it for any country, but that's good. So every country should have these things that they're, that sets them apart and that makes them special. Yeah. Okay, well, guys, I am even though I have a minute left, I'm pretty talked out, and I think I'll wrap this baby up. The Buccos play this afternoon, as do the other two teams we're avidly watching, the Cards and the Reds. And so, what am I going to do tonight? What am I going to do? Jeez. So it's very exciting, and it's a lot of fun, and I love these guys. I just love them. So even if you're late to the bandwagon, get on in. This is delightful. It's just wonderful. And, the Steelers, you can't stay on top all the time. It's against the law of physics. You gotta fall and climb back up. And this is our year to take a fall, quite clearly. So be of good cheer. Be of good cheer. Hockey season about to start, too. And gorgeous day out there. Enjoy yourself. And if you see me foaming at the mouth at somewhere, or hitting some old lady on the head, I'm telling you, it might get interesting. By Friday, if you do not notice a change in my personality, I think, oh, God, it might be just a little more zzz, which I think I already am today. You don't get that today? Zzz. Okay. Okay. Well, while all that's happening, this cough and my ability to get oxygen into my body are supposed to also get better. Whatever. Anyway, goodbye.
Lynn Cullen Live, Monday through Friday from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. and archived at pghcitypaper.com. The opinions expressed on Lynn Cullen Live are those of the host and do not necessarily reflect the viewpoints of Pittsburgh City Paper, Steel City Media, and its advertisers.